Think about the tech you're holding in your hand right now. Your smartphone, your laptop, maybe even the coating on your sunglasses.
Yeah.
It feels solid, right?
Yeah.
Durable. But what you can't see is that its performance, its durability, its sheer functionality,
Yeah.
it all relies on layers of material thinner than a human hair.
We're talking about multi-layer thin
Oh,
films.
yes.
And these layers, they're really the silent engineers of the modern world. I mean, take a solar panel. Its efficiency isn't about the thick glass on top.
Right.
It's all about nanometers of material layered perfectly inside. If just one of those invisible layers is slightly off, too thick, wrong composition, maybe a tiny contaminant,
The whole thing fails.
the whole device fails. Or, and this is sometimes worse, it just performs poorly for its entire lifespan.
And that is what we are diving into today. We are peeling back the microscopic onion of modern material science to look at the technology that makes all this precision possible.
Microscale X-ray fluorescence.
Or MicroXRF.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate way to peek inside a product without, and this is the key, without breaking it.
Our mission today is to give you a really deep understanding of this non-destructive powerhouse technique. We're going to explore how systems, like the leading MicroXRF platforms, act as a critical detective.
A detective. I like that.
It ensures that these advanced materials, across wildly different industries, from a clean room manufacturing floor to, believe it or not, the halls of a fine art museum,
Oh.
that they meet these impossibly high standards.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the physics. MicroXRF sounds incredibly high-tech, and it is, but the fundamental principle behind it, X-ray fluorescence, it's surprisingly clear.
It really is. I mean, what's fascinating here is that XRF, at its core, it's a technique for elemental composition analysis. It just answers the question, what is this made of?
But the most basic
The
question.
most basic question. But the key differentiator, and this is why it's so valuable for finished goods, is that it does it without destroying or damaging the sample.
That non-destructive part is just, it's critical. So how does a MicroXRF system, the kind designed to look at these tiny, tiny layers, actually pull off this chemical ID?
Well, it all starts with a highly focused primary X-ray beam.
Okay.
This beam is directed with incredible precision right onto the sample's surface. Think of it like a specialized flashlight beam, but focused down to a tiny spot,
How tiny?
sometimes just a few micrometers wide.
And when that light, that X-ray hits the target, what happens?
So when those high-energy X-rays hit the atoms in the material, they excite them, they knock electrons out of their inner shells.
Right.
Now, to stabilize, the atoms immediately fill those vacancies with electrons from the outer shells. And that transition, that little jump, causes the atom to emit energy.
And that energy is the secondary X-ray.
Exactly. That is the fluorescence part of the name.
So it's like the material is shouting its own identity back at you, based on the unique energy signature of those X-rays.
Precisely. Every single element, whether it's gold, silicon, copper, lead, it has a distinct characteristic signature, a unique shout, as you put it.
I like that.
The system detects these secondary X-rays and analyzes them. This gives you two things: qualitative results, what elements are there, and quantitative results, exactly how much of each element is there.
And the level of detail is just staggering. We're not just finding the main ingredients of a coating. We're talking about extreme sensitivity. What do we even mean by detecting contaminants at parts per million levels?
That level of sensitivity is what separates MicroXRF from a lot of other techniques. If we're talking parts per million, ppm, that's like finding one specific grain of sand in a small dump truck full of material.
Okay, wow.
And if that one tiny grain of sand is a contaminant, say a trace of chloride or iron, it can catastrophically short a circuit. It can ruin the bonding of a coating.
So if that fly isn't caught, a $1,000 device could fail. The sensitivity translates directly into quality assurance
Yeah.
and, I guess, massive cost savings.
Absolutely, and that's why the micro part is so important.
Yeah.
If we just used standard XRF, we'd get an average reading of a big area, which is useless if the problem is localized to one tiny spot.
Right. You'd miss it.
You'd miss it completely. The MicroXRF system can focus that beam tightly enough to isolate that one little imperfection, or to evaluate a multi-layer structure one microscopic point at a time.
Now that we know how these materials, scream their elemental identity, the key question for an engineer is, what kind of actionable data are we actually collecting?
Yeah.
The output here isn't just a list of elements, right? It's a Full-on engineering blueprint for quality control.
It is. It offers a comprehensive, I'd say, three-dimensional characterization of the material. We move way beyond simple composition. The first piece, of course, is the detailed elemental composition.
Checking for purity, making sure the right stuff is in there.
Exactly. But the real value, I think, comes from the second area, structural assessment. This is crucial for verifying the physical construction. It determines layer thicknesses, which is just paramount.
And you mentioned something here I want to clarify. Assessing composition gradients. What does that mean in practical terms for an engineer looking at the data?
That is a critical feature. See, most layers aren't perfectly discrete, like a stack of paper. When you deposit one material onto another, you often get an interface where the two materials sort of blend together.
Oh, okay.
The composition gradient measures that blending. We're not just measuring if a gold layer is 10 nanometers thick. We're measuring how that gold slowly blends into the nickel underneath it.
And that blending determines the bond strength.
It determines everything: the strength, thermal conductivity, electronic properties. If that gradient is wrong, the layers might just peel apart under stress.
So it's measuring the quality of the marriage between the layers, not just their physical location.
That's a great way to put it. And the third major piece, which is invaluable for mass production, is quality mapping. The system can literally map the uniformity of a coating across a whole surface.
Like a heat map, but for quality.
Exactly like that. It immediately flags potential localized defects or stray contaminants. You get a visual readout of how good your manufacturing process actually is.
That visualization factor sounds incredibly powerful. It takes all this abstract chemical data and just makes it concrete.
It does. For instance, you can produce a high-resolution 2D elemental map of a complicated printed circuit board. You don't just see copper, you see exactly where the copper traces are uniform, where the gold plating is consistent, and, oh look, here's where an unwanted element crept in.
So engineers are getting layer-specific spectral data and real-time quantitative results funneled right into their software. It bridges that gap between atomic physics and immediate production adjustments.
It's the ultimate feedback loop. But, and this is the critical caveat, to make sure those results, the thickness, the percentages, are actually actionable and reliable, we have to talk about the absolute bedrock of this whole science. Calibration.
Which leads us right into the rigor of the science. Let's discuss why calibration isn't just a good idea, it's the foundation for all of this. Why do the results depend so entirely on getting it right?
Because if the instrument isn't perfectly calibrated, the numbers it spits out are, well, they're essentially meaningless noise. You have to establish a known, verifiable baseline.
Right.
That's the only way to accurately convert those X-ray energy signatures into definitive percentages and precise thickness measurements. Errors in calibration lead to errors in manufacturing, which can cost millions.
So what are the do's? The essential best practices for a reliable MicroXRF analysis?
Number one, you must use standard reference materials, SRMs. But not just any standards, you have to use what the industry calls matched standards.
Matched standards.
This is key. The standards you use for calibration have to align as closely as possible with the sample's actual composition and structure. That includes the substrate material and even the approximate thickness.
That sounds like a huge logistical challenge. I get the need for it. But getting matched standards for every unique thin film combination, say 5 nanometers of platinum on aluminum oxide, that must be incredibly expensive.
It can be challenging, absolutely.
Yeah.
It demands a high upfront investment, but it is completely non-negotiable for accuracy.
So if you cut corners,
If you're measuring a gold layer on copper, but you use a calibration standard of gold on glass, you're going to introduce significant errors. The underlying materials absorb and scatter X-rays differently. At the end of the day, the cost of a bad standard is always less than the cost of shipping out a million faulty components.
that definitely puts it in perspective. Okay, what's the second rule?
Secondly, you need to check calibration routinely. This isn't a set it and forget it thing. If you shift from analyzing heavy metals and semiconductors one day to light element aerospace coatings the next, you have to re-verify.
Because the variables have fundamentally changed.
They've completely changed. You have to test known standards periodically to make sure the system is still accurate for that new job.
And finally, optimization. Getting under the hood and tweaking the settings.
Yes, you have to optimize the system parameters. This
Yeah.
means adjusting the tube voltage, the current, the detector configuration specifically for your sample.
And why is that so important?
Because tuning those settings dramatically improves the signal-to-noise ratio. And that is especially critical when you're hunting for those trace elements, those ppm contaminants, or trying to differentiate between incredibly fine, thin layer structures.
Now for the flip side, the pitfalls, the don'ts, the things that can turn a sophisticated analysis into a waste of time.
The most dangerous mistake, I think, is failing to account for the multi-layer environment itself. You must never, ever disregard layer interactions.
We call those matrix effects, right?
That's the term, matrix effects.
Tell us a bit more about those. How does one layer actually influence the measurement of another?
It's just simple physics, really. The X-rays exciting the gold layer on top might be partially absorbed by the chrome layer underneath it. Or the chrome layer's own fluorescence might excite the gold layer, generating a secondary signal that didn't come from the primary beam. If you ignore how these adjacent layers absorb, scatter, and enhance the data, your results for both composition and thickness will be wildly inaccurate.
So the software has to be smart enough to model all those complex interactions.
It absolutely has to be. That's a huge part of the technology.
Fascinating. And the last common mistake.
It sounds simple, but it's ignoring routine maintenance. This is advanced machinery. It relies on stability, so you can't ignore it. System upkeep, keeping the X-ray tube and detector clean and functional, that's fundamental to measurement integrity over time.
This technology, sounds like it belongs exclusively in these specialized labs, but this is where the story gets so interesting because it proves just how pervasive it is. When you start listing the applications, you realize almost every advanced product you interact with relies on this.
It touches every single high-tech sector you can imagine.
Let's start with the obvious one, high-tech manufacturing. Semiconductors must be the most demanding application.
Absolutely. MicroXRF provides critical quality control and process monitoring for integrated circuits. Every modern computer chip relies on these layers deposited with just unbelievable precision.
And this tech verifies it.
It allows manufacturers to measure thin film thickness and composition down to the submicron scale, ensuring every chip performs exactly as it's designed before it ever leaves the factory.
Then you have things that rely on extreme reliability, like aerospace and automotive coatings.
In those fields, a failure isn't just an inconvenience, it can be catastrophic.
Right.
So these industries use it to characterize protective and functional coatings. Things like thermal barriers on turbine blades or corrosion resistance on car parts. They have to verify composition and thickness against these incredibly rigorous standards.
Because if a thermal coating is 5% too thin.
The part could fail mid-flight. It's that serious.
And what about the systems that manage all our data? Advanced photonics.
This is one of the most exciting growth areas. We're talking about integrated circuits that use light instead of electricity.
Light.
Waveguides, modulators, multiplexers, the things that are essential for modern high-speed telecommunications. MicroXRF enables the detailed characterization of these light-guiding materials, ensuring maximum transmission efficiency.
Switching gears a bit over to the environment. We see its role in the renewable sector. Photovoltaics.
Oh, yeah. Analyzing the thin film materials in solar cells is crucial for optimizing their efficiency and, just as important, their long-term durability.
We're always trying to squeeze more power out of them.
And that optimization, making sure the right elements are layered at exactly the right depth, it all happens at that microscopic level, and it's verified entirely by this non-destructive process.
And here's where it gets really interesting, moving completely away from the factory floor and, well, into the historical record. The sources highlight a totally surprising non-industrial application.
This is a perfect example of the power of non-destructive analysis. We're talking about cultural heritage and art conservation.
So museums.
Exactly. Because the X-ray beam doesn't damage the item, conservators can use MicroXRF to examine priceless historical artifacts and artworks. They can identify the exact materials, the pigments, the binders used in a 17th century painting.
Without ever having to take a physical sample.
Without ever touching it in a destructive way.
Which must give them crucial information about the origin of the piece, the artist's technique.
And most importantly, how to best preserve it for future generations. It just perfectly illustrates the broad utility, whether you're trying to verify the gold plating on a new integrated circuit or identify the chemical composition of an ancient bronze patina.
It's the same underlying technology doing the detective work.
The same elemental detective work.
So let's wrap this up. We started with this idea that our modern world runs on layers so thin they're almost theoretical. This deep dive has shown us the technology, the sophisticated MicroXRF system that makes those invisible layers measurable, manageable, and dependable.
It really is the essential non-destructive tool. It provides reliable, actionable data for research, for quality control, for product development across advanced manufacturing, and even conservation science. It ensures that the microscopic structures underpinning our technology are perfect every single time.
And that shortcut you just took, that's understanding the sophisticated quality control that underpins global technology, from the speed of data in fiber optics to the efficiency of the solar panels on your roof. You now know about the unseen guardian of high-tech production.
So given that microXRF is absolutely critical for optimizing things like solar cells and characterizing next-generation data components, consider this. If we lack the ability to reliably and non-destructively verify the exact composition of these invisible, critical, thin layers, how fast would global technological progress truly halt?
That's a big question.
The world's shift toward faster data and greener energy depends entirely on being able to analyze what you cannot see. Something to think about the next time you look at your phone screen.